Get ready as Fighters Inc. presents 5 rounds in the FightMad Zone with the biggest names from the world of combat sports. Hosted by Joe Long. This is the FightMad Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the FightMad Podcast, hosted by myself, Joe Long, from Fighters Inc. as we approach our 25th year in the combat sports industry. Yes, we're getting old. Give us a follow at Fighters Inc. on all social media, and make sure you hit that subscribe button for the FightMad Podcast, available on all good podcast providers and YouTube. We are on YouTube as well, so give us a follow there and give us a share. Now, previous guests, we've had amazing athletes, industry insiders, celebrity fight fans. And I know one of our last guests from the boxing fraternity, I said you don't get more inside than this gentleman, which was Mauricio Suleiman from the WBC. When it comes to MMA, when it comes to UFC, you don't get more inside than this man. And when I say inside, I'm on about inside the actual octagon with the actual athletes. I'm proud to say he's British, and I'm proud to say he's one of the best referees on the planet right now. Ladies and gentlemen, give a warm welcome to this week's guest, number 9, Mr. Marc Goddard. Marc, welcome to the FightMad Podcast.
How you doing, Joe? Glad to be here, mate.
I'm very well, and I'm absolutely buzzed to have you on. Even though you're from Birmingham, I'm buzzed to have you on the show.
Technically, Glasgow by way of Birmingham, or Birmingham. It's Birmingham by way of Glasgow, right? Yeah. A lot of people know that. A lot of people hear me talk. They don't know I was born in Glasgow. I lived there till I was, my parents, both mum and dad were Scottish. I was born in Glasgow, lived there till I was 9 years old, I think. A young boy anyway. And then my mum remarried and we moved to Birmingham, which is now what I call home.
It's a home. Brilliant. Thanks for coming on, Marc. What have you been up to recently? I know we've worked together recently.
Yeah, I mean, obviously for the, still coming down from that because we had the Arnolds recently. When I say we, I mean us as the English Mixed Martial Arts Association, EMA. Funnily enough, I was talking about this morning. I was doing an inside feature for IMAF interview, and we were talking about obviously the Arnolds and the success of it. And honestly, from not just present company accepted, because I said, how it came about when yourself and Paul contacted me and explained what you were doing, and would Emma be interested in putting on, the MMA side of it. I'm glad we said yes, because that weekend was phenomenal, mate, top to bottom. Couldn't have asked for any better.
Indeed, I think. Firstly, it was great to work with you over the weekend, and also see the talent coming through the new governing body. And I think it was again, not just saying it. I think it was a real statement for English mixed martial arts, and that the governing body's here, and you're forward thinking as a governing body. I mean, we all see a lot of the old saying is the Blazer Brigade within governing bodies. Generically, whether that's karate, judo, boxing, the whole lot, badminton.
Badly fitted blazers as well.
Yeah. And I think the Blazer Brigade for English mixed martial arts is definitely not there. It's more the T-shirt brigade. And, your forward-thinking crew, and really looking forward to some good things in the future with the governing body. Yeah,
I mean, I hope so. And obviously with with the success of the Arnolds, and hopefully this is day one. It's going to be a repeat. It's going to be an annual thing. It'll be a repeated process, and hopefully we can come back with you guys again and share the load and be able to showcase. I think that was the beauty of it as well. It's something different. Yourself how long you've been putting on events and showcases and exhibitions and all these things. It's great when you look at professional fighters, this, that, and the other, but I'm not saying anyone can do that, but that's kind of what's associated with an event. But actually having And I think what worked so well in tandem with it is that it wasn't just MMA. You know, we had jiu-jitsu there, gi and no gi. We had taekwondo and the karate as well, showcasing martial arts as a whole, because, you know, without being cliched, we are all one. You know, it is all one big pot. It is all one family. Everything's diverse and people do their own thing. But I've always said there's enough meat on the bones for everybody. And showcasing, having it centered around the kids and the future of the sport, for me, it made it extra special.
Most definitely, and it was for us as Fighters Inc. Myself and Paul. It was a throwback to the Senny days, and you know, it was great to be back, you know, in an expo environment and showcase, you know, all the combat sports which we love and have promoted for nearly 25 years. And I've no doubt next year is going to be, you know, a lot bigger off the success of the whole show, as well as the Combat Zone at the Arnold's. So it's a good start, and already looking forward to working with you guys next year for the Combat Zone at the Arnold's.
You're welcome. It's such a good atmosphere as well. That's something I found. Nothing was.
You know what, Mark? It was like one big family. It was like a big family get together for the combat sports, wasn't it?
You know, of old faces,
new faces, young up and coming athletes and competitors who was able to actually stand there and talk to the likes, you know, of yourself, or, you know, whoever in whatever sport they was involved with. You know, it was like the who's who of, you know, of all of the sports you mentioned earlier, and good to see, and looking forward to getting back into it next year.
100%.
Now, are you, speaking of looking forward to it, are you looking forward to this? Genuinely, are you ready for round one of the Fight Mad podcast?
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Let's do this. Let's go, Mr. Goddard.
Seconds out. Round one.
Round one. Marc Goddard, what is your first ever fight memory?
Yeah, obviously from my fight memory, from my personal front, you know, like I said, when I was born in Glasgow, I grew up in Glasgow, without, you know, saying, you know, a violin story, a sub story. You know, I was, my mum was a single parent. Where we grew up was, it was rough to say the least. So you had to learn to look after yourself. I was the youngest at that time of two brothers. I had an older brother. They kind of beat some sense into you and make you aware of what it means to look after yourself. So fighting, people say, oh, it's in your blood, this, that, and the other. It kind of is up there. You don't get where I came from. You kind of didn't get a choice. But I knew there was more to it than that. And then from a martial art, from a combat sports perspective, the very first thing that turned me on into martial arts and looking and seeing it for the first time, where we used to live in Glasgow, we used to live opposite this park, and then there was like a summer fete one afternoon, and there was a local karate club. I mean, I didn't have a clue. You know, you see people when you were a young kid. I'm probably, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 at this time. And the local karate club came down to do like an open exhibition at this. And I remember standing there like I was mesmerised, you know, because I'd only ever seen stuff like this on TV and obviously old martial arts movies and you know, things that happened in Hollywood. But I saw all these people and kids stood in gis, like doing high kicks and katas and kias and shouting and this, that, and the other. And I remember distinctly, they were actually doing like a demonstration of their kicking prowess, because they had samurai swords. I can't remember how sharp they were, but they were sharp because they were putting pieces of fruit on these samurai swords, apples and oranges and stuff, like sticking them on, and then like fast, you know, switch kicking and flick kicking just enough to break the fruit off the blade, and then just showing the prowess. And I remember stood there like thinking, oh my God, these people are superheroes. But the actual guy, who I believe was the chief instructor, he went to do the same thing and then followed through, for want of a better description, a bit too much, and nearly took the top of his toe off. So I think the swords were sharp enough. But that was my first, apart from what you get growing up as a young kid in a rough area, actually seeing a martial art, real life in front of me for the first time. That's my earliest memory. And then I kind of got into, I remember I was mesmerised by boxing as well. As a young kid, in particular, the heavyweight era in Mike Tyson. I mean, I remember distinctly like getting up to set the video and trying to work out how to set the video, because of course the fights were on in the middle of the night. There was no such thing as Sky TV and this, that and the other back then. You had to get up and manually input onto your videos. I think it might even have been a Betamax at the time, getting them to record so I could record them and then get up and watch the boxing. I was mesmerised early, the following Sunday morning. So that was my first, from a combat sports perspective, seeing martial artists, real life in front of me in a local park for the first time. And I remember being mesmerised by boxing. That was the first thing, and Mike Tyson in particular.
I've actually got in Andreas, our producer's notes, that you commentate on a number of different shows, and you don't just relate to MMA, you'll relate to boxing in quite a bit of depth when you do commentary. So obviously that comes from a young age by being mesmerised by the heavyweights.
Tyson was the first. He was the guy that like he did for a lot of people, because I remember just watching him, and it was like, what am I looking at here? This is not normal, and he wasn't normal when he first. I wanted to immerse myself like he did, because he was like, and my mum wouldn't let me box as a young kid. She's like, no, not a chance. And I remember he was a historian of boxing as well. And he used to, when you speak to him about the history of boxing, in particular heavyweight boxing, he knows everything. He's obviously a ferocious man. And I've said it before, I've said it in interviews, this, that, and the other. And if I have been talking about fights and stuff, I'll always refer to that, because even to this day, hands down to me, he is singularly the most destructive man that was ever put on this single-minded, destructive force that's ever been put on this. But definitely in boxing anyway. The things that he was doing on his rise to the top. I know a lot of people talk about the quality of opposition, this, that, and the other. You're always going to find holes in everything. But when you had a guy like that, and you know what heavyweight sports are like, when you have the heavyweight champion of the world, the eyes they draw a crowd like no other. Look what's just happened with, AJ. Look at the crowds he draws. Look at all the excitement that was potentially building to pulling in perhaps the greatest British heavyweight fight of all time. Obviously, the wheels fell off a little bit with AJ suddenly losing to Usyk. But yeah, for me, like heavyweight boxing, in particular, like I said, Mike Tyson, I don't think anyone could tell me any different, mate. He was the most destructive man that ever stepped foot in a ring. Single-minded, destructive power. That's my opinion anyway.
Indeed. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And it leads us on to round two. So round one, we're going with Karate in the Park, Marc Goddard's first combat sports memory.
Seconds out, round two.
Round two, I don't know if we're gonna go on to the man you've been talking about here, but what is Marc Goddard's favourite fighter of all time?
I'm probably even as a martial artist, and the whole debate about boxing, martial arts, this, that, and the other, I'm going to say Mike Tyson, just for that reason. I was utterly mesmerised on that guy as a kid. And I remember, because he was the person that really switched me on to boxing and watching, and that's how. And when I was watching his ascendancy, when he became. When he beat Floyd Patterson's record, didn't he? When he became the youngest ever world heavyweight champion. I think his first belt was Trevor Berbick, if I remember rightly.
His first world title was Trevor Berbick. And as you say, he shifted the needle in combat sports, in my opinion. That because of the visual of that knockout of Trevor Berbick trying to get up, stumbling down, trying to get up again.
It was the second round it was finished, wasn't it? One side of the ring to the other. I think he took his second title was from Bone Crusher Smith, I believe.
Was it Bone Crusher Smith? Yeah,
I think so. I'm going to say that, and I remember the first unification bout he had was Tony Tucker. I think Tony Tucker was the first guy. I may be wrong. I think Tony Tucker was the first guy to take him the distance in his unification bout, and he won that. But being immersed, and like I said, it was like a cliche. You know, I used to get up in the middle of the night trying to work out how to program the video to be able to record it and get up and watch it on a Sunday morning. He mesmerised me. So
I've been there. And quick story for you, Mike.
We're the same age, right?
We are exactly the same age, you and I.
Yeah.
So quick story. Quick. Don't tell anybody. Quick story for you. I was still at school when he fought Bruno, and we was probably in our second from last year at school at the time. Yeah, first time. And my friend had it, and I didn't have it on. He had it on TV. I didn't have it on TV. We wasn't lucky enough. So I think it was actually snowing that night, and I got up in the middle of the night, went round to his house, and it was like a sort of 15-minute walk from my house. Middle of the night, 3 a.m. or whatever it was, knocked on his door. He overslept. No one from the house picked up, opened the door. I stood outside. No mobile phones at that time. Stood outside the house, knocking on the door in the snow. No answer. To walk back home and then listen to it on the radio, I was absolutely devastated. So Stuart Nethercott, he actually went on to play professional football. Stuart Nethercott, thank you very much for that night. It was a great night. I didn't get to see the fight, but a little story for you there about Mike Tyson. And my cousin actually my first cousin that night went to the States to see the fight. He was actually there, and actually won a fair bit of money around the fight, as a lot of people did, I would assume.
Yeah, because like I said, he was the guy that I was mesmerised by, but he was the person that accidentally, should we say, who led me on to Frank Bruno. And Frank,
right.
You know, people first said to me, like, did you ever have a sporting hero growing up? It was Frank Bruno as a kid.
Was it really?
100%, man. He made me cry twice. Frank Bruno made me cry twice. Once was when he lost to the first one when he lost to Mike. And I remember almost crying. You remember the famous thing with Harry Carpenter? He was backing up, and I think he threw like a check left hook. I'm sure it was a left hook, and he caught Tyson. And you remember, I'm not saying he wobbled him, but he looked visibly like he almost like stepped.
I think he wobbled him.
Yeah, and I remember Harry Carpenter, and he was going, he's got it. And he goes, come on, Frank. And he was losing it with him. And then when he got beat, I remember crying when he got beat. And then I also remember crying when he fulfilled his dream and won his title.
That was amazing with Oliver McCall. I think it was at Wembley, right?
It was.
That was amazing, and funnily enough, Mark, the gentleman that got him into shape come from the British karate team. A gentleman called Keith. I forget his name now. He's gone. I'm losing the plot. I'm getting too old. But Keith done all his personal training and got into that world title and obviously got the win. At the end of the fight, you see a blonde-haired, curly guy jumping up and down. Keith Moulton, there you go. But he took Frank. He made him a bit looser, you know, with his strength and conditioning. And
because that was one of his things, wasn't it? I mean, he was chiseled. He looked like a superhero, like an action figure. He had
unbelievable.
He had all the attributes and everything, and then he was like. You know, when you compare, obviously, the movement of Tyson, he was like something you'd never seen in a heavyweight before. Frank, by comparison, could have looked a bit cumbersome, a bit more robotic. But, yeah, he was a definite sporting child. It wasn't a footballer or anyone like that. It was Frank Bruno. And I've never met him. I've been in the company of Tyson a couple of times in Vegas at fights. Never actually spoke to the guy. But Frank Bruno, I don't know what. I think I would act like a little fanboy. If
you know what, we'll try and make that happen. And make that happen.
I'd have to tell him the story.
We'll definitely try and make that happen. Well, but we are going number one favourite fighter of all time. Mike Tyson is in the books on the FightMad podcast.
Got to be.
For Marc Goddard.
Seconds out. Round 3.
Round 3. We've had some deep conversations on this round, and you've had a little bit of controversy in your refereeing career, and only a couple of bits, which I'm not a journalist, so I'm not going to go dig. Let's talk. But UFC 245, you actually received some death threats after the fight with Usman and Covington. Who that was from, I don't know. I don't really care. But what is
16-year-old kids in the mum's fucking basement? That's who it was from.
Okay, we got it. What is the biggest fight Marc Goddard's had to overcome in life?
That's that. And when I saw this question, mate, it's a bit of it is a personal one, isn't it? It's a bit of a mad one. And you talk about refereeing there, there's highs and lows and this, that, but that's 99.999% recurring. It's something that's gifted me the most, children aside, as number one. It's something that's gifted me the most magical things in my life. So that it's not difficult, and the stuff that comes with it, that's nothing. When you look at, struggles in life and you're saying the biggest fight of my life, without getting into it too deep, or, everyone's got a story, right? Everybody's got a backstory and this, that, and the other. And, like with life, who am I to complain? That's kind of what I'm saying, We've all had difficulties, we've all had struggles, but I want to be the kind of guy that, and especially like you said with the refereeing side, that kind of puts you out there you're out there on a public pedestal. Because by definition, that's what you do. You live or die by your sword.
Yeah, you're out there to actually get shot down, right?
Yeah, that's what happens. But and obviously coming through the combat sports myself and fought, amateur and professionally, and overcoming certain things in my life to attribute where I wanted to be professionally. I remember speaking to you about it with. People always talk about how did I get into refereeing, and we were just talking about it funnily off air. September 2004, I turned up to an event that I was supposed to be fighting on, but I got injured, and the promoter was then still a dear friend of mine. He said, "Mark, we've been let down. You got a referee," and I was like, "What the hell?" I didn't have time to think about it. I just jumped in, and the rest definitely really is history. But I believe that's what life is about. I believe in fate. I think that life is set out before you. You're going to zig and zag. Life's going to throw a few curveballs. But I think that ultimately, if you're meant to do something or something's going to find its way to you, then that's going to happen. And I think that's what happened with me with refereeing. I fought. I wanted to be the best in the world. I wasn't the best in the world. I won far more fights. I lost fights. I got beat up. I beat people up. Done very well jiu-jitsu. Done well with grappling. But I got to a point where it's about acceptance. That was the main thing for me. You need to accept, at a point in your life. And I was presented with another opportunity, and I kind of took it with both hands. But I had no idea. In September 2004, I had no idea that 4 years later that would transpire into me refereeing for the first time at UFC, and then 13 years after that, having gone around the world a couple of times with good grace and fortune to do what I'm doing. Like I said, but when it comes to like in a fight, I always try to be that I try to be a little bit more optimistic. And like I said, I don't want to, when people talk about trials and tribulations, it's a very personal thing, right? Because you don't know what another man's or another woman or whoever it is, another person's going through. Troubles are always a very, very personal thing. But I look at everything in my life and I know that many, many people would give their right arm to be where I am. So who the hell am I to talk about struggles and and bad things and stuff like that. I tried to just project it. And I think there was like analogies, that the wrong word, but it's like a fable, isn't it? You know, we all have trials and tribulations in life. Some are deep and personal, this, that, and the other. But there was like the story, they say that if you went into a room with 99 other men and listened to all their troubles, the chances are you would still choose to leave with your own. And that's always kind of hit me quite hard, and thinking that it's kind of pushing you back into the realm of, like I said, who am I to talk about troubles? I have a nice house and roof over everything. I've worked my balls off. I've nailed my balls to the wall for everything I've got, and I've worked damn hard. But it kind of pushes you back into the thinking of, you know, when you turn on the news or you look at things happening in tragedies here, there, and everywhere around the world, it forces you back into looking inward and definitely being thankful for what you've got. So, you know, the tribulations I've had in my life, I think by comparison to other people, they're entirely menial, and I kind of want to give it up for those people and just be eternally thankful and grateful for what I've got. I always try and keep that as like something that keeps my feet on the ground, and I just kind of play it from there, if that makes sense.
I hear you. So round three, we really, you've really turned this one around. We're really talking about more keeping positive and moving forward as an individual.
Yes, and yeah, just trying to, like I said, flipping the script, you know, without, not saying I'm going to bore everybody, but like I said, every man's got, you know, their problems, and like I said, some of the problems I have are entirely menial in comparison to how you look at other people with real tribulations and troubles. That's who my heart goes out to. So fortunately,
most definitely, I agree with what you're saying, but I am going to dig a little deeper, Mark. Can we have, because obviously people in here know you as a referee. What's the biggest fight you've had to overcome with your refereeing mentally?
You know, it is mentally. It's like, obviously, when if you get notoriety in any genre, in any industry, and when I say notoriety, what I mean is, if you're out there at the forward face of it, you know, and I am, and people got this thing about, oh, he's this, but listen, the guy always wants to be on camera. Are you fucking stupid? I'm 6'3", I'm dressed in black, and I stand in the middle before I start every fight. I can't not be on the camera. But the people who know me, that truly know me, you haven't got time to go around putting out all the fires and letting everybody know, hey, look, I'm not like this. I'm a good bloke. I'm this, that, and the other. We just get on with it, you know. And like the social media thing is quite a thing. You know, I try and explain that to people that, look, I'm, in the grander scheme of things, I'm nobody. I am a nobody. Yes, I have a little bit of notoriety in a certain sport, but I'm not famous.
Listen, let's have it right on this show. You've done an amazing job, and it's amazing that it was actually yesterday was your anniversary for 13 years from your debut with UFC. So it's quite ironic that we're doing this podcast today. But you have done a great job over them years, Mark. You know, and people do talk about you as, you know, let's say a role model, a good ref, a great ref, and people from the UK are proud that, you know, we've got you.
I appreciate that, mate. And
it's true. It's true.
And I appreciate those people too. And like I said, without being condescending or big-headed, you know, being recognised for that, I love it. You know, it's fantastic. But like I said, it hasn't come easy. You know, like it really hasn't, because of the hard work and the sacrifice. And then, like I said, you're asking me to pick out like something that's hard. Like I said, with the social media, you know, the best thing about social media is that you have direct access to people. And the worst thing about social media is you have direct access to people. So that when something goes wrong and it's perceived going wrong, look, like we said about, you know, we're laughing at the beginning saying death threats on there. Who was it? Some fucking 14-year-old virgin, mate. That's who it was. I've had all these detractors, mate, but I've never met one in person. It's funny that, right? You know, if you've got
there you go.
Come and see me. But when you get it's the personal stuff that I wasn't quite, you know, and kind of like we've all grew in tandem because we came up at the same time. The sport and us, as our generation, we've came up and grown with social media. Social media wasn't there before us. We've all grown up and learned to live alongside this thing, right? So it's still new to us, and I'm kind of getting used to the fact, or I did quite quickly got used to the fact of when you put out there on a public pedestal or on a public platform, you know, people are going to say what they want to say about you, and hey, that's cool. As my granny used to say, you're big and ugly enough to handle what somebody wants to say. I've got no problem about that. What I wasn't prepared for was like, it's the amount of sickos out there, you know, when they talk about, you'll get stuff about your kids and stuff about your wife. And that's kind of, it's hard to deal with sometimes, you know what I mean? When it is in volume, if you have a particular instance with a high profile person, that person then gets carte blanche to say what they want publicly about you. But you as an individual, especially as an official, you're not supposed to say anything, and you're not supposed to say anything back. And then like you get the deluge, and sometimes, like I said, that's been difficult to process sometimes. Like I said, say what you want about me. I have one condition: come and say it to me. But when it gets to the kids and the family, that's why I'm very private socially. On a social media platform, you know, like my Instagram, it's a business tool. You know, my Facebook is closed to, you know, to friends and people I know. Then you can share things on there because there's some sick people out there. And like I said, it kind of pulls me back again, mate, to like I was saying 2 minutes ago. Who the hell am I to complain about that? You know, like I said, I'm here with this much contribution. Then you'll get like megastars, and I imagine what those guys kind of get. Well,
you know, we've both probably seen it when you look on a certain athlete's page and the first 10 comments are really negative towards that athlete for whatever reason, and it's like, wow, have these people really got this time to go hard at an amazing athlete or an actor, whoever they are? They get some painful grief online for no reason at all.
Yeah.
So, you know, how them guys and girls deal with that, you know, that's a tough one.
Seconds out, round 4.
We're going to take it upbeat a little bit. We're going into the championship rounds, as we say. What is Marc Goddard's biggest musical inspiration?
It's quite eclectic, really, mate. My musical taste is quite broad. I listen to like a bit of everything. But if I was to single it out, I would say the electronic genre, you know, particularly of our age. That's what I laugh about. I think when I told you, obviously, is dabbling in martial arts stuff as a kid. Then at 16, I left school. I went out one day and I didn't come back home till I was 25. It's like 9-10 years. I grew up in the rave scene. Need to say anymore. We was out there having a good time, right? A real good time. So I grew up in the clubbing, and I was dabbling with DJing and music. Music is a very, very important thing to me. But the spectrum of music, I like, you know, from Motown to R&B, little bits of rock, pop, everything. But the thing that the part of my life where it hit home more was definitely living through that, the rave scene, just before early 90s. I think my first experience of a rave was 1991.
Right, okay.
And then growing up through raves and then moving into house, going into clubs and stuff.
So was that more like hardcore days as such?
Yeah, hardcore before it evolved into drum and bass, jungle.
Into drum and bass,
It was hardcore, and the early rave scene, and there was people even earlier than that, mid 80s, as it was still evolving. But like I said, when I left school, and then I was listening to this music, thinking, "What the hell's that?" And then, as a young kid, you became a little bit experimental, shall we say? And like I said,
so I'm picturing you with like an acid house T-shirt on and your glow sticks, throwing some shapes.
No,
was that not you?
Nah, mate, no, not that one. I was in that era.
But that wasn't you.
No, mate, I was too cool for that.
No,
I promise.
too cool. You was at the back of the club.
A little bit more, yeah, on the sides. I was shuffling on the sides, mate.
Right, okay.
I weren't in that. Sometimes I'd lose it with the music, but I weren't one of those guys with a bucket hat and the glow sticks. No.
So you was having a little shuffle at the back.
But I was right there alongside them.
Brilliant. So if we can pinpoint an artist or a tune, is there a specific artist from that genre or generally which is like your go-to, which is always hits on your playlist?
Okay, if I was to pick one artist, one group who really hit home to me, I'd probably say Oasis.
Well, okay.
So I saw them several times inside and outside. I remember seeing them at Finsbury Park. Widely, everyone talks about Nebworth, but look at the thing what Noel was talking about in Finsbury Park in London. Their outdoor gigs. I saw them indoors too. I think, and obviously at our age, that Britpop era, they kind of captured. I was explaining it to Mike Beltran. I've got his T-shirt on here. Right. This is weird. He was over. He came to see me in Birmingham a couple of weeks ago. He saw it on my Instagram. And he loves music, all kinds of music, and he digs Oasis and stuff. And we were talking about, Oasis, and we had was having a big row in the car. He said, like, it was a laugh. His missus was in the back. He said, "Oh yeah, he said, I like U2. I said, yeah, and it wasn't really my thing, this, that, and the other. And he's going, yeah, U2 is way better than Oasis. So I stopped the car, and went, what the fuck did you just say? He's going, oh yeah, U2, wait. And I went, Mike, stop right there. I said, you can't say that. And we had this back and forth. It was really funny. His missus is laughing in the back. And I'm saying to him, it's two different things. Oasis. Do you remember, obviously, it was Oasis and Blur, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we actually worked with, I don't know if you remember, there was a big thing with Oasis and Blur. They actually played in a charity football event way back then. And there was a big PR... There was a big PR thing about them playing against each other. Yeah. It's called the Celebrity Soccer 6. And it was actually a friend of Paul Alderson and mine what promoted that event. So the beef between them two, we actually knew someone that was promoting it to benefit their event. So I know exactly what you're on about.
It was the whole north. It was like a north-south divide as well, wasn't it? They captured.
Most definitely, yeah.
And I think some of Blur's stuff was fantastic too, but... Put it this way, if somebody said, you're going to a desert island now and you're only allowed to take, if you were to take, one particular artist or one particular catalogue of their music, it would be Oasis. Hands down.
Great. And your number one track from Oasis, Mark?
Oh, Jesus. Slide Away.
Tremendous. I'm not a big Oasis fan. I like their stuff. Don't get me wrong, I like their stuff, but I haven't had their albums and listened to the depth of their work.
Who's your number one?
Can you put it on me?
Has anybody ever flipped it back at you?
Never, and I'm not going to go there. Or should
Come
I?
on, just for one question. Let's just flip it back on this one question. You're going to go on a desert island, and they say you can take one artist, a group, a band, whoever it is, one artist only. You can take their back catalogue to listen to for the rest of your days. Who's it going to be? Mad question, huh?
It is a mad question, and I've never even thought of it myself, and you're putting it on me. I'm going to have to come back to you on that one, Mark.
Have a think about it, mate.
I'm going to have to come back to you on that one. Because you had notes to go to before this one. Did you think about this before? Or is it just
I swear on my kids. Andreas sent me the, what do you call it? And I was kind of thinking a little bit. But even when I was talking, I was convinced, saying about if you're pushing me into a genre of music where I had the most fun, the most memories and time, it was the, rave scene, house scene. But then I remember coming out of that and Oasis were right there. They were right there. So, and then I think it kind of hit home. That's the question to ask somebody.
Yeah.
Who is it?
I think, you know what? I think I'm going to go there. And my upbringing was very... So I've had this conversation with a lot of my friends. We're exactly the same age. So you get to that age where you start to choose your friends because of where they're going and the music. And you actually feel torn sometimes because you've got one lot of mates going down this musical road and then another lot of mates going down that musical road. At that time, at our age group. And I was very much drawn to I had mates which was going to the rave scene. You know, the hardcore raves, like down in London, there was a big gig called Telepathy, which was 10 minutes up the road from where I lived, you know, and every man and his dog was there, as you say, experimenting in their teenage years.
Their recreational activities.
Their recreational activities. I don't know what they was doing. And then the other side was like musical snobbery. And one of my best friends growing up was a renowned DJ now, Colin Francis. And it was R&B and hip hop, and we actually played in a sound system together from young. So my musical choice is real R&B and hip hop, and I'm actually quite geeky when it comes to that genre of music, and it would probably be A Tribe Called Quest.
Wow.
Yeah, it would probably be A Tribe Called Quest. Musically, very jazz orientated, and lyrics for days. So it'd probably be A Tribe Called Quest.
People don't understand how influential they were.
Oh, amazing! If you ever get to see the documentary on them on Netflix, I don't know if it's on Netflix anymore, but the documentary on A Tribe Called Quest is unbelievable.
I'll search that out.
Yeah, it beats, rhymes, and something. But the I don't think it is actually on Netflix, Mark. It may be on something else. But yeah, I'll get it over to you and I'll put it out on our social media. But yeah, I'd probably go Tribe Called Quest. So we're at different ends of the musical spectrum at the same age, rock to hip hop. But still a lot of synergy between both of them.
Massive, mate.
Yeah, massive.
Seconds out. Round 5.
Number 5. We're going to go into round 5, final round, with Marc Goddard. I'm glad you flipped that on me, Mark. I'm going to play a bit of Tribe Called Quest later, I think now, or Wonderwall. Did you ever see Jay-Z come out at Glastonbury?
Yes.
And he actually performed Wonderwall.
Yeah, because you remember when he was announced for Glastonbury and Noel Gallagher was really vocal saying, what the hell are they doing? This is a rock and roll thing and blah, 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 blah. He played that to perfection. Yeah, that was awesome.
I thought that was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant. We're going round number 5. And this is a question where we've had some amazing answers. And some of them have actually really thrown me. Some people go, you know, with friends, family, people within their industry, and some of our guests have really gone out there. In life, if you had 3 people to choose for Marc Goddard's corner team for life, who would them 3 people be and why?
Are you talking about for life, or are you saying a corner team as in a corner team for...
Not for a fight. Not for a fight. This is your corner team for life.
Okay.
3 people, who and why?
Fuck, mate. That's thrown me now. Even though you said that. But you know what? I did give thought to it. And I was thinking about... And it's probably even more fitting now. When you're thinking about it, it would be... Like, this might drop it on its head. But imagine it being yourself. Imagine cloning yourself and being able to look at yourself and like that as the third person almost. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's some weird thoughts going on there, Mark. You're going back to your raving days, I think.
Maybe I'm recreational. But what I was thinking about, because when I saw the question, I was kind of thinking about it like in a fight scenario. I was thinking, like, imagine it, because you'd see something coming before you saw something coming, if that makes sense. A bit like a video game, you know, you're playing No, you're not feeling it.
You've gone into the Matrix, haven't you?
That's what I'm talking about.
Keanu Reeves.
That's what I'm talking about. See, mate, that's kind of thrown me now, because you're saying that I didn't understand that it was like a life cycle or a lifetime scenario. So
it's a lifetime question.
I don't want to come out with like some mad cliched answers and some bullshit pre-thought meditated things about philosophical this, philosophical that.
All I need is 3 people's names, 3 people in your life, past or present. You don't even have to know them.
Yeah.
Who you would want in your corner for life. I'll give you an example. Maurizio Sulaiman started talking about the Pope.
Which one?
And
which one? I was a cat. I was born and bred a Catholic, mate. Where I was from in Glasgow, your religion you're forced into it, you know.
Right, but that completely threw me.
It threw me as well.
It completely threw me. But I need 3 names for Marc Goddard's corner team for life.
Okay. Well, the first one is myself. As bizarre and weird as it sounds,
I like it. It's crazy. It's a crazy thought, though.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's almost like,
I'm getting it.
Imagine if this person, your own person, yourself created, was one day ahead of you. How fucking magical would that be? Might be a bit scary because you can rewrite history and shit like that, but imagine. You know what I mean? And then maybe
that's out there.
And then maybe something more on when I say like more on a philosophical front, maybe something like, I tell you who I listened to a lot recently as well. Kind of gets a bit of motive too. You ever heard of Jordan Peterson?
Yes, yeah. I have. Yeah,
I've been listening to a lot of his stuff recently, and I think that sometimes when, I don't want to be, when they say about motivation, I'm not saying that Jordan B. Peterson is a motivational speaker, but I do find his outlook and his philosophy on certain things more engaging for me. And again, I think that would be an entirely personal thing. You've got many other people that people would listen to, and obviously I think it's a very personal thing. Whoever strikes at one man's sense equals another man's oddity. You know what I mean? Who am I to? It's a very personal thing. Whatever you find comfort or solace in, or you find guidance in, who am I to tell you it's any different? But I think Jordan Peterson's one he's kind of struck a chord. It's mad because, when you talk about, like, I used to have, sometimes I'm a little bit too pragmatic for my own good. It kind of works in a way as a referee, because you have to make decisions, bump, immediately without a thought process almost. You don't have time to sit and think and look at this and that and that. And then I was always thinking about like motivational speakers, and I see some of them and I look at them and I'm listening, I'm thinking, oh, fuck, you know what I mean? And I was almost thinking, like, you never see a broke motivational speaker, do you? Right?
You don't.
You don't. And I guess that's kind of the point of what they're saying, is that they're giving you maybe their life lessons and what they did to succeed and what they managed to do to be successful. And, all power to them. If they're genuinely, for the want of... What I'm saying is, here, think about this. Before social media, what did we know about motivational speakers? Because everybody right now can be a motivational speaker, right? You look at your Instagram and stuff like that, and you see things and you're like, fuck it, you know what I mean? Like, I can't even finish listening to it. But then, when I was saying about when you don't see a broke motivational speaker, I guess maybe that is the motivation in itself. If they've done something to... especially if they've, and all power to these people, if they've come from nothing. And when I say nothing, I don't mean destitute on the streets. I mean just an average, normal working man like you and me, and they've had an idea or a concept and they've managed to motivate themselves and take that to earn themselves million, or, more power to them. Fantastic. But I always like the little bit of skepticism in me, when I'm looking at these people and they're talking about, get up at 5 a.m. and do this, do an hour's meditation. I'm like, are you really fucking doing that? Because I'm not sure that you are, every single morning. And they say, like, when you come home, well, how much do you sleep? And they're like, 20 minutes. I'm like, no, it's not happening. So I guess trying to pull it back, myself, somebody like the person I'm into at the moment would be a Jordan Peterson, and then
brilliant.
You know what?
One more.
Sorry,
we need one more name.
I'm going to throw this back, and I'll do it on a level, and I'll do it with that. Remember at the beginning of when I was saying when I was a kid and I grew up, where I came from in Glasgow, where I was born, and I was a young, obviously a very young boy. My mum was a single mum, and she was out working, to provide for me and my brother. And we was my granny, my nan, who was also a single mum, a tough 5'0" Glaswegian woman. She kind of brought, I can talk about this without being emotional because it's all fondness. So, and she got took from us at an early age. And I remember like she was like a second mum, sometimes a first mum to me. Put it this way, in life, she's the person I miss the most. And if I could have one other person's, I was actually referring to it, a lot of her sayings that I still say, when she says about being big and ugly enough, that was one of her sayings. And she's talking about somebody who's sleek or sly. She says they can hear the grass growing. And I remember all her sayings. So in my life, that she's the person I miss the most. She brought me up when my mum was out there working to provide for me and my brother. And I spent more time with her than in my younger years than anyone else. And I'd love to hear the stories that she'd have to say now, if she was still here now, the advice and the stories she would give. So yeah, I'm gonna go with my granny.
Brilliant. And what was Gran's name, Mark?
Rose.
So we're going with Rose as number 3, and that's a lovely way to end this week's FightMad podcast. It's been. You've thrown me off there, Mark. Actually, with the granny one, and it's lovely to hear you talk about her in that way. So we're gonna dedicate this show to Nan. Was it Nanny or Grandma or Nana?
It's weird because in Glasgow I used to call her. In Scotland, like the slang for mother is Ma, so they say M.A. So
right.
when I was as a young kid, you copy what everyone else is saying. So we would call her Ma, copying my uncle and my auntie because their mother. So we used to be out in the streets. I remember she used to say to us, "Stop calling me, I'm your granny." But we up the road in Scotland, they don't really say Nan, it's granny or gran, but we used to call her Ma, which was slang and short for mother, because that's what we heard my mum, my auntie, and my uncle call her. So that was even more fondness.
Brilliant. Well, this one's going out to Ma Rose, and it's been a pleasure to have you on, Mark. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been in tune to the FightMad podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and give us a follow at Fighters Inc. Episode 9 with Marc Goddard. Mark, it was an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thank you, Joe.